Hey guys, I'm back again. Time for another show. I figure we'll spend some time on the river first before we get into the crazy stuff. I got two items for you today to cover, and I'll just start using the assets I've prepared. There we go. Once again, a plug for the t-shirts. Thank you so much for all the sales since the last broadcast. Unexpected and totally sweet. Let's turn on the music. Yes, exciting times. Just a little info about what you can expect from this program. Here we go. These are all the things you can select. This is a user-driven program, so feel free to choose which segment we do next. We can always go hang out at one of the Doku stops. Doku Broad, 321, Wolf, Gems, High, Indo, Shen, Nightmare, Doku Az, Doku Wan, and Doku Final Years. Or you may select a program. We can do Mei Banfa Chronicles, where we try to solve unsolvable problems. You may select the Oral Tradition, where I'll tell you a story from one of 4 different universes. Or we can do Doku 404, and I'll just be whiling out. But today, there's a few things I want to talk about, mainly 2. It's been on my mind ever since I taught a unit on Mount Everest the other day. Couple crazy facts about Mount Everest. First of all, according to my English textbook, which was published in 2008, nearly 10% of people who try to climb Mount Everest perish. In 2008, the reported cost for an expedition to the top of Mount Everest was $65,000 USD. So imagine paying $65,000 to have a 10% chance of dying. But at the end, if you make it to the top, I guess you get a chance to say, hey, we made it to the top. If that's what you want, by all means, collect your 65 G's and get walking. That leads me to our first prepared topic for the day. Here you go. So here is the New Zealand $5 bill featuring Sir Edmund Hillary. And you see, let's get a good view of that. Edmund Hillary and Tibetan mountaineer Tenzing Norgay were the first people to reach the summit of Mount Everest, the highest mountain in the world. The two men reached the summit by late morning on May 29th, 1953. After spending 15 minutes, just 15 minutes, on the peak, they began their descent. Let's take a look at this highlighted portion here that says Edmund Hillary and Tibetan mountaineer Tenzing Norgay were the first people to reach the summit of Mount Everest. I guess the whole point of the program today is I would like to call for a footnote. I would like a footnote on this in Google, please, because, well, it just doesn't seem likely. It doesn't seem likely that we have the correct information here. This is totally cake news. Anyone who's thought about it or knows the history of the Sherpas, who are the native people of the valleys in the Himalayas, might ask a few questions that the mainstream narrative has failed to address. I'm here at the Wikipedia people for the Sherpas, and it says the Sherpas are one of the Tibetan ethnic groups native to the most mountainous regions of Nepal and the Tibetan Autonomous Region. Then it talks about the reason for the derivation of the word Sherpa and where they live. Let's scroll all the way down to the history, specifically this paragraph, which I will read to you. By the 1400s, the Khumbu Sherpa people had attained autonomy within the newly formed Nepali state. That's the part we want. By the 1400s. All right, so you have a whole bunch of Sherpas living in the region by the 1400s. We'll say 1500 AD at the latest. And if Edmund Hillary and Norgay climbed in 1953, then you have approximately 4.5 centuries where you're telling me not a single Sherpa climbed to the top of Mount Everest? That seems like very, very unlikely. 450 years living next to a mountain, and you're not going to climb up that thing? That's about all. I think my statement is pretty clear here. We need a footnote next to this. By all rights, Sir Edmund Hillary was a great mountaineer, and he rightfully deserves his spot on the New Zealand $5 bill. However, let's be real, folks. He was not the first man to summit Mount Everest. It was some Sherpa way, way, way before that. Please, Google, put a footnote on this. Can we please report Sir Edmund Hillary and Norgay as the first documented climbers of Mount Everest? There's no way, no chance that no one climbed it before them if they'd been living in the region for near 500 years. Absolutely incredible in the most base definition of incredible, meaning not credible. What do you think? Am I way off my rocker on this one? Or is there some water in the cup that I'm holding? At any rate, it's a beautiful looking piece of currency, and I wish America would get their act together and go with more colors beside green. Maybe a little hologram thing, just like the New Zealanders have. Thank you to the Kiwis for your contribution to mountaineering. However, not a chance on God's green earth. There were no Sherpas before Sir Edmund Hillary, who climbed the mountain on May 29th, 1953. Moving on to the next segment. This has been something I've been thinking about doing for quite a long time. If it were a full segment, I would call it the Fourth Estate, or some kind of play on words about the Fourth Estate. But we need to talk about this growing schism between what I learned in high school about journalism and what journalism looks like today. Here is a piece from the New Republic. Nikki Haley caves to Trump in the most pathetic way possible. Okay. What did they teach us in high school about journalism? Objectivity. So, in this segment, what I'd like to do is read this article from the New Republic as they have written it. Thank you, Talia Jane. And then let's make some changes and follow the rules that we learned back in the day. So let's begin. Paragraph 1. After a failed campaign buoyed by the Never Trump movement, Nikki Haley's pathetic caving to Donald Trump stooped to a final new low on Tuesday. Politico reported Haley will be releasing her 97 delegates and telling them to back Trump at the Republican National Convention next week. Adding salt to the wound, Haley was allegedly not invited to attend the RNC, according to Politico. Haley spokesperson Cheney Denton told Politico that Haley won't be attending the RNC next week because she wasn't invited, and she's fine with that, Denton said. Trump deserves the convention he wants. She's made it clear she's voting for him and wishes him the best. The nominating convention is a time for Republican unity, Haley will announce in a statement, according to Politico. Joe Biden is not competent to serve a second term, and Kamala Harris would be a disaster for America. We need a president who will hold our enemies to account, secure our border, cut our debt, and get our economy back on track. I encourage my delegates to support Donald Trump next week in Milwaukee. Haley built a campaign as a moderate conservative alternative to Trump's extreme agenda and was boosted by Republicans disinterested in a second Trump term. After grim primary results, Haley ultimately suspended her campaign in March, the last Trump contender to do so. However, her lifeless campaign continued eating into Trump's lead through the remainder of the primaries. Haley's zombie campaign picked up 6.4% of Republican voters in Kentucky's primary in May and an eye-popping 21% in Indiana's primary, and pulled 8.6% away from Trump in New Mexico's June primary 3 months after she suspended it. In May, Haley stated she would be voting for Trump in November, but stopped short of explicitly directing voters to support the man she once described as totally unhinged, whose presidency would be suicide for our country. Trump raised racist birther conspiracies about Haley while she was running for president, alleging that she wouldn't be president because her parents were not U.S. citizens when she was born, and mocking her legal first name, Nimrata. Trump also called her a bird brain in September 2023, saying she doesn't have the talent or temperament to do the job. Haley interpreted Trump's remarks as a compliment, a sign that her campaign was gaining momentum, responding, "Love this. It means we are second and moving up fast." After she suspended her campaign, Trump suggested Haley may have a place on his team, calling her a capable person and noting, "We have a lot of the same ideas and the same thoughts." Okay, pretty harmless little article here, or so you might think. But the truth is, it is not harmless at all. This is one piece of journalism that represents the modern day, riddled with subjective terms. So we are going to remove all of that subjectivity and present it as it should have originally been presented, as an objective piece. So let's just get started. Nikki caves to Trump in the most pathetic way possible. Well, I've seen a lot of pathetic things out there, and it's really hard to say what is the most pathetic way possible, so let's delete that. Nikki Haley caves to Trump. Sure. Nikki Haley is reportedly ceding to Donald Trump ahead of the Republican National Convention in a totally humiliating manner. Well, maybe she doesn't feel it's humiliating. That is subjective, so we'll delete it. After a failed campaign buoyed by the Never Trump movement, Nikki Haley's pathetic caving to Donald Trump stooped to a final new low on Tuesday. Okay, pathetic is subjective. Goodbye. I guess we have to keep caving, but I would say it still has some connotations that sound less than objective. You've got writer bias creeping in here. Let's try saying Nikki Haley's... I'm not going to change too much yet. I don't want to get into the basics. I just want to take out tiny things to show you how much of a difference it makes. How much of a difference, excuse me. Okay. After a failed campaign buoyed by the Never Trump movement, Nikki Haley's caving to Donald Trump stooped to a final new low on Tuesday. Well, let's... all this caving stooped to a final new low is once again subjective, so we will delete that. Who's to say if it was buoyed by the Never Trump movement? Maybe. I'll give the original author of this article, Talia, that. But this is a sentence fragment, so we're going to take it out. And now we have another sentence fragment. So we are going to... oh, there we go. Just put a comma. Politico reported Haley will be releasing her 97 delegates and telling them to back Trump at the Republican National Convention next week. Adding salt to the wound, we don't know if she actually was wounded. So we'll just leave it to Haley was allegedly not invited to attend the RNC, according to Politico. Haley spokesperson Cheney Denton told Politico that she won't be attending the RNC because she wasn't invited, and she's fine with that. Trump deserves... okay, nothing in that paragraph that offends. Breaking the rules, that paragraph's fine. The nominating convention is time for Republican unity, Haley will announce in a statement, according to Politico. This is the third time that we are talking about what Politico is saying, and I just taught a unit on reported speech, so I can tell you that whoever wrote this article should have just posted a link to the Politico article, and maybe that would have been enough. Joe Biden is not competent. Okay, that's subjective. However, it's in quotes, so we gotta leave it. And Kamala Harris would be a disaster for America. Once again, subjective, but it is a quote, so we're gonna leave it. All of this is a quote, so we'll go down. Haley built a campaign as a moderate conservative alternative to Trump's extreme agenda. Well, some people think extreme is one thing and some think it's another, so we're getting rid of that. As a moderate conservative alternative to Trump's agenda, and was boosted by Republicans disinterested in a second Trump term. After grim primary results, grim is subjective. I don't really know about this one. Let's just, when all else fails, delete. After the primary results, which actually changes the meaning. So we'll say after the primary, of course they got results. Haley ultimately, whatever, I'll just take it out because it's too much. Haley suspended her campaign in March, the last Trump contender to do so. However, her lifeless campaign continued eating into Trump's lead through the remainder of the primaries. I guess if she suspended her campaign, it is lifeless, so we'll leave that. Haley's zombie campaign picked up 6.4% of Republican voters in Kentucky's primary in May and an eye-popping 21% in Indiana's primary. Okay? For one person, their eye might get popped at a higher number. For others, eyes pop at lower numbers. So let's just say in 21% in Indiana's primary and pulled 8.6% away from Trump in New Mexico's June primary, 3 months after she suspended it. Okay? I think the rest of this paragraph is good. Trump raised racist birther conspiracies about Haley while she was running for president. All right, well, there's nothing to say that it was racist. He's just wondering about her true birth. So racist is something that the author has inserted based on her own opinion. He might not have been racist at all. Don't get me wrong, he might be totally racist, but the truth is that we simply can't know his motivations. We can only assume. So if you want truly objective journalism, then you have to take out the word racist unless he straight up said he was racist. You can't call someone a racist unless you really know or their actions show it. This is a long topic, but I'm not here to get into the specifics of whether or not he's a racist. I'm just saying this author cannot claim he's a racist just because he has conspiracies, which also you can't know what's a conspiracy if you don't know the whole truth. And I'll tell you that Talia Jane, just like everyone else, does not have the full truth. So basically the whole word conspiracy should be thrown out because we just don't know what the truth is. So let's say he raised birth concerns about Haley while she was running for president, alleging she couldn't be president. Get rid of that. That's annoying. She couldn't be president because her parents were not U.S. citizens when she was born, and mocking her legal first name, Nimrata. I wasn't there. I don't know what he said about Nimrata. I don't know if he mocked it or not, but it sounds like he probably did, considering the next part is a quote from Trump saying he called her a bird brain in September and saying she doesn't have the talent or temperament to do the job. Haley interpreted Trump's remarks as a compliment, a sign that her campaign was gaining momentum, responding, "Love this, it means we're second and moving up fast." Well, we don't know if she interpreted it as a compliment. It sounds like she did, but let's just be safe. And let's just say Haley responded, "Love this. It means we are second and moving up fast." After she suspended her campaign, Trump suggested Haley may have a place on his team, calling her a capable person and noting, "We have a lot of the same ideas and same thoughts." Okay. So the article's done and we've removed all the subjectivity. So let's just compare side by side how it sounds, and you'll get a good idea, and I'll get a good idea if this is even worth my time. But it's something I've been thinking about doing for quite some time, so let's see how it sounds. Nikki Haley caves to Trump in most pathetic way possible. Nikki Haley caves to Trump. All right. Is there a difference in mood there? Nikki Haley caves to Trump in most pathetic way possible versus Nikki Haley caves to Trump. Personally, I feel like my version really sounds like the article examples I was shown by Mrs. Harris, God rest her. If she's dead, I don't know. She might still be kicking, but she was sort of old back when I was in high school in 99. There's a good chance she's still around. Miss Harris, 10th grade, advanced comp and English. Thank you for your wise words and guidance. Anyway, after a failed campaign buoyed by the Never Trump movement, Politico reported... Oh, I'm sorry. I should stay consistent. Let's read the original first. After a failed campaign buoyed by the Never Trump movement, Nikki Haley's pathetic caving to Donald Trump stooped to a final new low on Tuesday. Politico reported she'll be releasing her 97 delegates and telling them to back Trump. Now let's read my version. After a failed campaign buoyed by the Never Trump movement, Politico reported Haley will be releasing her 97 delegates and telling them to back Trump. Does that feel different to you? Do you feel less manipulated by my version? I certainly hope so. I'm not here, and no journalist should be here to tell you what's pathetic. The whole point is letting people make up their own minds. That's why we're in such a state these days, in my opinion, because objectivity is nearly completely dead, especially in the mainstream media. I don't know what kind of publication the New Republic is. I understand that if you cater to the people who believe what you believe, you can make more money and get more readers. But once again, I have to say that's why everything's falling apart, because people are putting their principles aside and going with what makes numbers. They're going with the numbers. We need more views. Tell everyone she's pathetic. Tell everyone she's pathetic. Okay, next paragraph. Pretty much the same. Haley spokesperson. Yep, that's the same. Just quotes, no problem. The nominating convention is a time for Republican unity. Haley will announce in a statement, according to Politico. All right, all that's a quote. No changing. Here we go. Haley built a campaign as a moderate conservative alternative to Trump's extreme agenda and was boosted by Republicans disinterested in a second term. Versus, Haley built a campaign as a moderate conservative alternative to Trump's agenda, which I guess it implies extreme. This one I think it's okay. I don't know, you really can't say that she's moderate. Let's just say Haley, I don't want to change it too much. I'm not trying to fall into the same trap as our friend Talia Jane has with just rife subjectivity. So I'm going to leave it as best I can. Okay. After grim primary results, Haley suspended her campaign in March. After the primary, Haley suspended her campaign in March. Grim's not so bad, but what someone might think is grim, others might think is not so grim. The brothers Grimm, on the other hand, are dead, so they can't really tell us exactly what grim is. Her lifeless campaign continued eating into Trump's lead through the remainder of the primaries. It's pretty much what I got.
We can learn a real easy song. This song is a pretty easy, beautiful song. If you know your G, you know your D.
Okay. Okay, let's just get to the last paragraph then and finish this off. Trump raised racist birther conspiracies about Haley while she was running for president. Versus Trump raised concerns Yeah, we don't even need that birther there. Birther conspiracies, you know, might as well just be concerns and then tell us why. So here we go. Trump raised racist birther conspiracies about Haley while she was running for president, alleging she couldn't be president because her parents weren't U.S. citizens when she was born. Versus Trump raised concerns about Haley while she was running for president, alleging she couldn't be president because her parents were not U.S. citizens when she was born. Honestly, the tone doesn't change too much right there. And he mocked her legal first name, Nimrata. Should probably look up the clip on that for next time. Who's to say what mocking is? I'll give it to Talia on this one. Okay, this is all quotes, and then we're done. On hindsight, this article is not so bad. I suppose we can give it 3 stars out of 5 stars on the objectivity scale. The biggest offender is definitely this headline. Haley caves to Trump in most pathetic way possible. Versus Haley caves to Trump. I would leave it at that. If you want to make it sound respectable, you could eliminate all of the negative connotations in the word caves and just be respectable and say seeds. Nikki Haley cedes to Trump versus Nikki Haley caves to Trump in most pathetic way possible. Oh, I forgot this part. This is a good one. Nikki Haley is reportedly ceding. There we go. She knows what word to use. She used it right there. Reportedly ceding to Donald Trump ahead of the convention in a totally humiliating manner. Versus Nikki Haley is reportedly ceding to Donald Trump ahead of the convention. So there you go. I think the main thing is that hopefully we all felt the differences in those two. I'm happy to do more in the future and plan to do more in the future, maybe with a bit more prep. But please, a friendly reminder, send me articles. I would love for any of the viewers out there to let me take a shot at objectifying. I don't know what the word is. Maybe sanitizing, sterilizing an article out there that you feel might be leaning too heavily on the side of subjectivity. Because we know that journalism is the final frontier, the last line of defense against blah, 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 JFK, Fourth Estate, blah, blah, blah. Thank you for watching this segment. I hope it turned out well, and we will now move back to the river. Sick dance moves. If you haven't seen this movie Dogtooth, I don't know if I would recommend it. It's got some interesting ideas in it, but sometimes you have like a 45-minute movie that's crammed into 90 minutes, and it's just simply not worth it. But I get it. What can you do? What can you do when you are told that you need to make a movie feature length and you decide that, hey, I really don't have the material for a 90-minute movie, so I'm going to make a lackluster 90-minute film. I wouldn't even call Dogtooth lackluster. I would just say that perhaps a bit of the runtime could have been trimmed. Whatever. I don't know why we're talking about Dogtooth right now. Let's just call the show finished for the day.
Molto panicaco! Molto panicaco!